Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so when I prove you wrong, I want you to say to your life, "I'm sorry."
I won't.
All right?
You won't.
Perfect. All right. And by the way,
Fantastic.
those people are not real Christians. They're
I
not real
know.
Christians.
Every Christian I talk to
But
is the only Christian doing it right. And I'm sure you're about to crash out in like 5 seconds. So,
I'm not. I
are you at
promise
least
you. I promise
18?
you. Yes, I'm 20.
Fantastic. And do you know that the Bible condones slavery?
No, it doesn't. So let's go back to Genesis chapter 15,
This is
verses
gonna be,
13 to 16.
this is gonna be
Go back to
painful.
the.
So I'll just read it for
Let's
you since you haven't
you
read
can read it
it.
up on the
It's
board if you
okay.
want.
I
I
got it
read
right
it. I
here.
read it.
I'm sure you have.
Okay.
Fantastic. As for your male and female slaves who you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire male and female slaves. You may also acquire them from among the aliens residing
hmm
with you,
hmm
and from their families who are with you, who have been born in your land. They may be your property. You may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property. Now, what do you
Okay.
call it when you own another human being as property?
Slavery. Okay.
Oh, slavery. The Bible
Perfect.
condones slavery. So now I
Perfect.
want you to issue an apology.
No, let me finish speaking though.
Oh, let me.
Go,
We'll
go,
try this again. Does owning another human being make them a slave?
yeah, yes.
Okay.
But can I finish speaking?
Did God just say these are the slaves you may own?
Okay, can I finish speaking?
Did God just say
Genesis
these
chapter
are the
15,
slaves?
13 to
Did
16. You're
God
not letting me.
did God say did God say did God say you can own these slaves?
He said it for a reason.
Did
Can
he
you go to
say
the
did he
chapter
say
I'm
you
telling
can do
you?
it?
Yes, for a reason.
Okay, so then God condones slavery. That's literally what I said. The Christian God
For a reason. For
condones.
a reason.
Thank
For a
you.
reason.
Okay,
For
so
a
now
reason.
I want you to issue an apology before we move on to your next talking point.
Can we? Okay, I'll say sorry for that. Yes, God does own,
Fantastic. Okay,
did condemn for a reason.
fantastic.
Now
So
go to
now we got to
Genesis.
talking point number two. God allows slavery, and you think you've got a good
For a
reason
reason.
for
For
it.
a reason. For a reason. Yes, for a reason. Go, and by the way, can we agree that he's speaking to the Israelites in that verse? Yes or no? Can we both
Yeah,
agree?
God is speaking to Moses in order to speak to the Israelites.
To the Israelites. Perfect. All right. Go to Genesis
Genesis
chapter
15 is
15,
going to cook
verses
you. You're not going to like this at all.
13 to 16. 13 to
You're
16.
going to hate
All right.
this.
Perfect. All right.
This is not going to go the way you think it is. As the
Perfect.
sun
Go, go,
as the
go.
sun was going down and a deep sleep fell upon Abram and a deep and terrifying darkness descended upon him, then the Lord said to Abram, "Know this for certain that your offspring shall be aliens in a land that is not theirs, and they shall be slaves there. They shall be oppressed for 400 years, although it's technically
Perfect. Perfect.
430 years."
Yep. 435, if you want to be exact. But he's talking about the
Actually, I think
Israelites
it's
that they're
four.
going to be
Actually, I think it's 430. I mean,
study your theology.
I'm
But
pretty
anyways,
sure it is.
he's speaking to he's saying that the Israelites are going to be enslaved. Correct or yes? He's speaking about the Israelites. Correct or not?
He's talking about the
Okay.
Israelites serving in Egypt.
Perfect. Okay. Then when we go back to the same verse you were talking about previous, he's allowing the Israelites to have slaves up to 6 years.
Yeah,
And
it
the
says
seventh year they have to be free.
the time that the Israelites lived in Egypt was 430 years. All right,
The earliest maybe.
apology number two. Let's have it.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. Yeah, 430. I'm sorry. Wow.
Fantastic.
But
Okay.
yes,
All right, now back
but
to your
yes.
bad talking point. So, what about Exodus?
So back to your verse, correct?
Which one?
It's the previous one you gave me, correct?
Leviticus
Yes or no?
25.
Yes.
All right, what about it?
He's telling the Israelites that they have the right to own a slave up to 6 years and free them the seventh year. Yes or no?
Citation needed. You're lying.
Go back to the verse then. Go back to the
I
verse.
got it right here. You're not going to like it. I love how confident these people come in having not read the book. All right, so show me in Leviticus 25 where it says anything about going free in the seventh year.
Here.
You're confusing
Let me go.
Exodus 21 with Leviticus 25, by the way. Just be clear.
Give me one sec. I was eating.
It's wild how often Christians get spanked on this topic, considering they've got the power of the Holy Spirit. Why is the Holy Spirit so weak?
Go to Exodus 21.
I
Sorry.
told you you're
Exodus
confusing
20.
Exodus 21 and Leviticus 25. Already got it. Fantastic.
Go.
This
Exodus 21.
this is gonna cook you.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, you're not going to like this at all. It says, when you buy a male Hebrew slave, he shall go out. He shall serve you 6 years, but in the 7th year he shall go out a free person without debt. Now, what if you're a woman, though?
Uh-huh.
Have you read verse 7? When a man sells his daughter as a slave, yeah, she doesn't get to go out. And what happens if somebody is given a wife while they're in their 6 years of service? If a master gives them a wife and she bears some sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out alone because they are permanent slaves.
Okay, now go to the verses 10. Read verse 10.
Sure.
In the same...
If he takes another wife to himself, so now we've got polygamy. If he takes another wife to himself, he shall not diminish the food, clothing, or marital rights of the first wife. Yeah, if he takes a wife, because you're allowed to take multiple wives.
I'm about to refute that again. It says if he takes another wife. So if he takes another wife, he shall not diminish food, clothing.
Yeah.
And right.
Of who?
Which is implying that of the woman that was sold.
No.
Which means the woman.
Wrong.
Yes, that's what it says.
Wrong.
How's it wrong?
That you're not to diminish the woman's sustenance while she is a concubine. Just like everything else, you haven't actually read the text. We'll read it for you. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. If she does not please her master, who has designated her for himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. Why does it say that he has designated her for himself?
Go to Deuteronomy.
Why
15,
does it say that he designated? Answer my question. Why does it say that he designated this woman? What's it mean when it says that she's been designated?
If you go back to the old Hebrew text, it says serve.
What's it mean? If you go back, Deuteronomy is not the old Hebrew text. Exodus is older. So
I'm talking about Exodus. I'm talking about the verse we're talking about.
I know. We're in Exodus. I'm asking you a question about the passage in Exodus that we literally just read. It says that if he designates her for himself or for the son, what does it mean to designate?
In the old Hebrew text of that verse, it says serve.
Stop saying Hebrew. You don't know Hebrew.
Well, if you go to blueletterbible.org, it translates it for you.
I actually know Hebrew. We're going to get into this. Okay, so Solo says, oh, geez, if I worship this God, if I worshiped a God this bad, I'd stop voting. Big W, Solo. I appreciate that, and I agree. I hope this guy doesn't vote. All right, so the problem here is that you're interpreting the word Eved or Amah to mean what?
Excuse me? Sorry, you cut off.
Which word? Eved or Amah?
It said search it up in the blueletterbible.org. It tells you itself.
I'm literally telling you what the words are.
I didn't.
A male Hebrew slave is an Eved. So what's your complaint with the Hebrew?
The lettering was changed. That it was
what lettering?
To serve.
No, incorrect.
Search it up. You can pull it up on your screen right now.
Man, this guy is just a glutton for punishment. All right, we're going to do Exodus 21, and we'll do which verse do you want to read?
You go to 1 Timothy 1:10.
That's in Greek. It's not even the same book. We're talking about what's happening in Exodus 21.
So you just want to talk about Old Testament, no New Testament?
So you're just dodging the passage. You're right. If I was in this conversation and I was in your position, I would buy a ticket to get the fuck out of here real fast because you're getting absolutely roasted right now. This is embarrassing. So we're talking about what Exodus 21 says, and you're trying to run away from it now. So I want to know what in Exodus 21 is getting translated incorrectly.
Well, you're misreading it. So
what am I misreading?
You keep interrupting me. Can I go?
I asked you. You said I'm misreading. I want to give me the actual text that I'm misreading.
Okay, I'm giving you verses, and you keep saying I'm jumping around. These verses answer themselves.
They don't.
They do. Well, back then in the Bible, it states if you were in debt and you didn't have the money to pay for it, you became a servant, which was called a slave in those days.
All right.
You worked for free.
I'll help you out. Do you see
Yes
this?
or no?
Do you see
Yes
this?
or no?
You're wrong. I'm fixing it for you. Do you see this word right here?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's a radicalized consonant at the end. This means sorry, hold on. There we go. That's actually not the right one. Sorry. We want this word. There we go. Evid. This means a slave or a servant, right? We also have the word ama in here somewhere in verse 7. If we go to verse 7, we'll find a different word for a female slave.
But it says a servant right there.
I know. I'm about to help you out. Just hold on tight. Okay, so we have another word that we find here. This is an ish for a male, and a daughter, which is a bat, or if it's plural, it's going to be different. There we go. And this is ama. So this root here means a female slave. This is a preposition. That's not part of the word. Okay. So these are the words that we have. And both of these words can mean a servant or a slave. Do you know what the difference between a servant and a slave is?
Well, a slave doesn't get paid.
Yep.
And a servant.
And what else?
Yeah, well, they get treated poorly.
No. One goes free and one doesn't go free.
Well, yes, what I'm trying to explain.
Okay, and fantastic. In verse 7, do the female slaves get to go free?
If you go back to what it says.
In verse 7, do they get to go free? It's a yes or no question.
It doesn't say if they get to go free.
All right, it says the opposite. It says they don't get to go free. If you go to verse 4, about the woman who is given as a wife to the temporary servant, do they get to go free?
Well, yeah.
No. It says, if a master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out alone. So they don't get to go free.
Let me show you.
That's called slavery. Imagine have this much confidence to get up here and alive thinking you're going to educate somebody and floundering in literally just 3 inches of water. You're literally drowning in a bathtub that just got turned on. We're not even deep yet.
It says right here, but if the servant declares, I love my master and my wife and my children and do not want to go free, then his master must take him before the judges.
Yeah. And pierce his ear. I know. And why would he do that? Why would he make that decision?
Well, that's if he wants to keep them.
Yes, because he doesn't want to get his family split up. Yes, because these people are permanent slaves. They are permanent slaves owned by the Hebrews. And if somebody gives you a slave and they bear children to you, your only option is to become a slave yourself. You don't get to keep them.
You're misreading it again. The Israelites were enslaved for 400 years.
No, this is after. This is after.
Yeah, this is exactly. So God's telling them, you guys are, I give you my right to own slaves for 6 years, and then you could free them the 7th year.
Except for the women. It says if his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he will go out alone. The man is leaving alone. The man's wife and the children remain property of the master.
Yes, and I just said that God gave them the right to own slaves
after
they were enslaved. After
I know.
They were enslaved
Fantastic.
For 400
we
years,
finally got it. Yes. God said you could own slaves. That's what background says. The Christian God condones slavery. I'm glad we can finally come to an agreement on that.
You're misreading it again.
What did I misread?
You're putting it into text like he thought it was okay to own slaves out of the random.
He said you can do it.
After they were enslaved for 430 years.
He said you can do it. You can own slaves. He just doesn't want them to be enslaved by another nation.
Well, they were enslaved for 430 years, correct or not?
Yes, and then God saved those people. Did he free all the slaves on the planet?
Well, no, obviously not.
Oh, okay. Who did he free?
The Israelites.
Did he free the slaves owned by the Israelites?
Well, the men, yes, but the women.
Wrong.
Not many.
No. When they left, when they left Egypt, they already. Did you know that when they left Egypt, some of them owned slaves?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Not all.
Did God tell them to free the slaves?
It doesn't say the quote.
Okay, so God says you can own slaves. He tells you who you can own as slaves. He says you can beat your slave. Never once did he say that you can't own slaves.
Okay, and then go to Deuteronomy 11 to 14.
I love Deuteronomy 11. I love Deuteronomy 11. It's one of my favorite chapters.
15 to chapter 15, verses 11 to 14.
Oh, you're not going to like this at all. I love how they get up here thinking I haven't read it. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 15:11. Since there will never cease to be some in need on the earth, I therefore command you, open your hand to the poor and needy neighbor in your land. Did it say slave?
Now read verse 3.
Of a foreigner you may exact it, but you must remit your claim on whatever any member of your community owes you. This is talking about lending at interest and collecting debts. So in the book of Deuteronomy and in the book of Exodus, we have laws about what kind of debt and what kind of interest you can charge. And as it turns out, you can lend money at an interest to foreigners, but you couldn't do it to your own fellow Hebrew Israelites because God has separate laws for what you can do to your brothers and separate laws to what you can do to the foreigners. You can charge interest to the foreigners. You can go to war and kidnap the foreigners. You can enslave the foreigners. You just can't do it to your own fellow Hebrews. Unless they're women, because women are just as bad as foreigners.
It's telling you to cancel the debt.
It doesn't say that. That's
Well,
if they are your own fellow Hebrew, and it's in the year of Jubilee. Have you never read the book? What garbage website are you pulling these talking points from? Because they're all garbage talking points.
How are they garbage?
Because none of them land. None of them land. Do you know what the year of Jubilee is?
Yes, but no.
Okay, what happens? What happens? What happens in the year of Jubilee?
I disprove. No.
What happens during the Jubilee?
Did I not disprove your point?
You didn't. You're cooking yourself. What happens during the Jubilee?
Because you said God said it was okay to own slaves.
Happens
and I told
during the Jubilee?
Don't get off topic.
I'm responding to the verse you brought up, nitwit. During the year of Jubilee, what happens?
And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your.
You are. You brought it up.
Statement.
All right. I'll break it down. I'll break it down since you're not smart enough to gather it. It says every 7th year you shall grant remission of debts, and these are debts to the Hebrews, not to the foreigners. And it says, and this is the manner of remission. Every creditor shall remit the claim that is held against a neighbor, not exacting it, because the Lord's remission has been proclaimed. Of a foreigner you may exact it. You do not remit the debt of a foreigner. You keep cooking yourself over and over again. You must be a sadomasochist.
Your original claim was that it was okay for God to own slaves.
God said you can do it.
He said it to the Israelites after they were enslaved for 400 years.
I know. God said you can do it. I know. We keep going back to this.
Okay, so I did refute your claim.
When God says you can do it, it means you can do it.
Well, he said under one condition. Is if you were enslaved and you were an Israelite, which is the context, you can own a slave up to 6 years and free them to 7.
Wrong. We'll read it again. We'll try this again. The condition is that if they're a foreigner, they can be your property for life. It says you may also acquire them from among the aliens residing with you and from their families who are with you have been born in your land. They may be your property. You may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property. And in the Hebrew, it actually says le'olam, which means forever, which is why a lot of translations say that they will be your property forever, or they will say they'll be your permanent property. And he ran. I didn't cut him, guys. He cooked. Imagine coming in with that amount of gusto, having not read any of it. literally just Googling talking points, trying to find anything that would land. These people are embarrassing.